U.S. Army National Guard colonel. He served as a Green Beret combat vet in Afghanistan. He's former White House counterterrorism policy advisor. Florida congressman from the 6th District, Michael Waltz. Michael Waltz, I look at Ukraine today. I see these people being slaughtered. I see their cities being bombarded. I see the brutality of the Russians. But I also see that the Russians probably aren't where they want to be. They seem to be bogged down in certain places and so forth. They do not appear to be this massive, strong Russian army that so many people thought existed. What is your take on the state of play right now?
Well, from a military standpoint, you're absolutely right. Putin clearly overestimated his military, and I believe from a campaign plan is trying to do way too much attack along so many axes that he's struggling logistically to support his armies. And it's important to note, Mark, he has about 3/4 of his entire army from all the way from Siberia across 11 time zones dedicated and committed to this effort. And they're making up for their lack of tactical and operational competence with brutality. We're actually seeing their soldiers pull back out of the cities and just level them with artillery and with airstrikes. And that is the Russian way of war. That's what they did in Syria, in Chechnya, in Afghanistan. And I fear it's going to continue to get worse for Ukraine before it gets better. On the other side of the ledger, the Ukrainians are obviously stepping up thanks to, I would argue, better late than never support from the Biden administration. And Biden, from a macro strategic standpoint, continues to let fear of escalation, and nobody wants World War III, I want to be clear, but he continues to let that fear of Putin's escalation drive his policy. And that's actually dangerous because it's giving Putin space to climb up the next rung of that escalation ladder. And I fear the next one is going to be chemical and biological weapons because Biden refuses to lay out the consequences of what will happen if Putin does that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And of course, the propaganda coming out of the White House is that he's taking the lead in uniting NATO. I mean, Poland has taken a greater lead than the United States in many respects. Germany has taken a bigger lead than the United States in many respects. The Balkan states have taken a greater lead than the United States in many respects. Congress has. I mean, even cutting off Russian oil. Congress was getting ready to vote in that respect, and then Biden told the Democrats to hold off, that he would do it instead, so it looked like he was doing something. I'm deeply concerned that the same generals who surrendered in Afghanistan are the same generals in the Pentagon, including Milley, who said Kiev would fall in 3 days. This guy doesn't have the foggiest idea, in my humble opinion, what's going on. To call his counterpart in communist China because he didn't trust the commander-in-chief before this one, Donald Trump. I think we have weakness at the top of the Defense Department. And furthermore, Congressman, the MiG-29s. The MiG-29s would trigger a nuclear response. On the one hand, at one side of their mouths, they're saying they don't need them. They're not good enough. They're not going to do anything the Javelins won't do and the Stingers won't do and so forth. Then out of the other side of their mouth, they say if we send them the MiGs, that's going to trigger a nuclear war. We all know why they need more air power. They need the flexibility. They need the tactical options. You know, it's one thing to fire a Stinger from your shoulder. It's one thing to fire a Javelin, but you need the mobility from one part of that country to the other. Am I missing something?
No, you're absolutely right. And just to take that backwards, both things can't be true. You can't say we have to have air superiority. And one of the reasons that the Ukrainians are resisting so well is they're denying Russian air superiority, but giving them more aircraft to do that wouldn't really be helpful. Really, that's cover, and it's shameful from the Pentagon. They know better because Biden is so afraid of Putin, and Putin's living rent-free in his head. But to the bigger piece, look, these dictators will push until, especially Putin, until he meets American steel. And we need to make that line and when he's going to meet that steel very clear. I am not for a no-fly zone. I am not for getting America involved in this war. But I do think that dynamic changes, Mark, if Putin starts using weapons of mass destruction. And to deter that, You need to make it clear that that could be a game changer and we could get involved. That doesn't have to mean American troops. That could be cyber. That could be other precision types of operations to take down in a pinprick style that capability. But Biden needs to make that crystal clear. Otherwise, Putin is going to continue to escalate as long as we let him get away with it.
I can think of no better way to take out artillery than with jet fighters, by the way.
Yeah.
And they're sitting there surrounding cities and just hopping away. Yes, sir.
Mark, send them the damn MiGs. I mean, that's it. They need them. They can use them. They know how to fly them, and they'll be effective for the Ukrainians. For the administration to draw these false distinctions between this type of weapon system but not that type of weapon system, we've made a clear choice to not send U.S. fighters or troops, but give the Ukrainians everything they need. Even when I was out there last year, the administration was dithering over this is an offensive weapon, this is a defensive weapon, and that's why they didn't have the anti-ship missiles, the anti-tank missiles. And even back then, last year, the administration was saying Stingers would be too provocative. That's why they didn't have them on day one, and they should have.
We'll be right back.